What's up, guys? It's your host Spartanic Arts DxD back with another high school DxD related video, and today we have What If Issei Left Part 14. Let's try to hit 500 to 600 likes for this video. By the way, guys, I know at least 100 of you are in the premiere right now. Okay, I'm probably gonna upload the day of I'm recording. This is gonna be a little special surprise upload because your boy was away for a little bit, you know, because I was dealing with some things. But thank you so much for the support. I cannot thank you enough. If you guys want to know exactly when my upload schedule is / my upload like little thing I got going on, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button, or click the first link down in the description below, as well as click the first link of the premiere in the comments, etc. I also just created a Discord, which I will be interacting with you guys quite a bit on there. There's already over 100 people in the Discord. That's absolutely fantastic. Both channels combined will be in that Discord. So yes, go ahead and join the Discord. It's the first link. It's also in the premiere. It's in this. It's a first link in the it's the second link in the description, and it's the first link in the comment section. As well as I just created a Patreon in which I will be reacting to High School DxD. You'll get my plain reaction to High School DxD. I'll be reacting to Dragon Ball Superheroes, Dragon Ball, things like that. Every anime that you could possibly think of, I will be reacting to on my Patreon so that I don't get copyrighted, which makes it easier for everybody. So yeah, once again, Apopowski just hit 60,000 subs. That's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for the support, ladies and gentlemen. We're taking this thing to the top. Okay, so yeah, thank you so much for the support. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and thank my balance breakers: Aunt Lewis, Lachlan Yates, Jordan Patchow, Night Ammo, Refeek135, Slow, the Black Dragon Emperor, Keep Saying 21, Undefined Truth, Vierwolf, Dark Phoenix, Ziki 2000, Shen Byun, Chaotic Raven, Mazuku, Dr. _MLG as the Bomb, Grim Fireshot Gamer, Ryuga, Source Bonder, Rob the King, and Zero Fusion. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker. And without any further intrusion, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get into part 14. So basically, we got like 25 minutes left of chapter 20. So let's go ahead and continue where we left off, when Dulio just became the new pillar of the factions. Too noisy, Lilith said, but she could not be heard over the clapping, so she snuggled to the back of the head of Seraphal's cleavage, using the Mao's breast to cover her ears. Now then, after the raiding game, the traitors will be banished from our lands, with the exception of the Nekamanas allowed to enter the East Yokai faction. Is that correct? Serzek said. Rosvisa is allowed to see her grandmother at least, but the Hirakako is banished, Odin said. I'll allow Gasper to visit Valerie as well. If she believes in him, then I will allow it, Alemahility said. On my end, the system of heaven will be restarted as a result. The demons, Azia, Argento, and Zenobia Corda can no longer pray. My ace and the sister will not be able to continue these acts either, as they will become fallen angels, but my sister's queen has faith that they will confess their sins before then. From Dulio's report, I believe so as well, so I will convert my ace back to being human when the time comes and she and Gabriel are banished from heaven. This would result in Gabriel becoming a Katsurai, and they will be taken in to live with the Shioto family, who want their daughters back, no longer trusting her to be in the Hyoto's care. Azazel and Pyongyang will be banished from the Gregor, along with the Hirakako, and all of Azazel's research will be confiscated, Shabzamazi said. Then for now, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for attending. I will inform you when we will have a date for the raiding game. But before all of you go, he stood up and bowed. I'd like to apologize for the actions of my sister and her Parage members. It is my fault for spoiling her to a point that she believed that she could do whatever she wants. Had I and my family been more strict in her upbringing, this would not have happened, and for that I apologize, Serzek says. You could have not foreseen this happening, Serzek. You don't have to apologize for actions of others, Shiva said. Yes, all is forgiven from us to you, Serzek, Zeus replied. The other leaders nodded in agreement, as they respected Serzek for apologizing for his sister's actions, but like Shiva, said no one could have foreseen this happening. Thank you. Well, that is all I have to say. You may go now, Serzek says, as all the others gave a nod and most began to leave the castle to go back to their respective factions. The dragons, and those from Team DxD also began to leave as well to go back to their clans. Shall we handle this now, Ajuka? Sarhiel says. Yes, Sona-san, please come us. Latia, you too, Ajuka says. Sony and Latia say at the same time, of course. So, before you go, Seraphil says as she was rubbing the sleeping Lila's head and nuzzled between her brows, give the girls a few days off so you can release that recording and make sure that no one mentions Issei to them, Seraphil says. Understood, Onisama, but wouldn't they get suspicious from the days off? And Loop, please pick him up, gesturing to the down Sanji, Sona said. I can help with that, Sikaveria says. How so? Sona replied. Well, we need KOKO's team's help. Make a monster or several that is rampaging under the disguise as a renegade demon. Make them do some work, Sekivara says. I suppose that would work. Using a message to keep them away, Sona said. Exactly. When they return, they will see how things have changed, Sekivara says. I'll contact KOKO. His team can monitor them as backup to keep them in check. We'll talk later. As the rest of her barrage followed Ajuka, Sarahil, and Latita to Ajuka's lab. Sikavera gave a nod in agreement as she and her queen left the meeting hall to report back to her parents about what happened. Mao, Oji-sama, the meeting is finished. You can stop sleeping, poking Falbum before giving up and leaving back to her clan's territory, Iruka did. So Odin, who is your new guard? Serzek says. Starting at the pink-haired woman, she seemed dangerous. Oh. This is Lightning. She was sent to me by Etro, the goddess that watches over Valhalla. When Rezavim breached the dimensional seals to the other worlds to send to the evil dragons out to who knows where, Eto brought the Lightning in and has been working for her ever since. I believe that Great Red may have sealed off the passages to take her home, because there are many by other dangers out there that we are not prepared for. So, Etero sent her to me to live a new life. I was hoping that she may join Team DXD. Virgil is impressed by her skills. She is a formidable opponent, Odin said. She's even true to her name. It's been a while since I've seen such speed, Gondel said. Welcome to the team, Dulio said. Lightning sought. Thanks, her tone was sharp, Lightning said. Well, we are off, Michael replied. Wait, Lord Michael, this is Lady Merlin introducing the woman that came with them. Arthur did. Merlin, as a wizard that helped King Arthur, Serzek said. That would be I, Merlin said. How are you alive? Michael replied. I placed myself in a comatose state. I believe I was awakened by that Issei of yours. I believe he drew something that I imprisoned. The holy sword, Ondite, Merlin said. Orondite? How could I have Issei have it? My team and I defeated Katre known as Santil. He claimed that he had the sword, Tobio said. Lady Merlin believes that what he had was a fragment of a fake one, Arthur said. I was informed that it's still under your protection, Merlin replied. Yes, and still is, Tobio said. Good, that is fine. Hold on to it. You say that this is Issei is the Sekiuti, right? Merlin said. That is right. He is this generation's Red Dragon Emperor, Serzek says. I see. I helped someone with the same title before, and since he gave me such a good impression, I would like to meet him. Issei, that is, although I do not approve of how he was betrayed. He has become someone of interest to me for having the same title as the one I helped before, with a smile. And then some, Merlin said. She looked at the two awake mouths, but rather than looking at Seraphil, she looked at Lilith. She was curious about her power. She had what needed to know about Great Red and Orpheus from Arthur, so seeing a copy of the Dragon of Infinity made Merlin want to know more about her for power. For Issei, it wasn't that he was the Red Dragon Emperor, but knowing that he was built from the flesh of Great Red, her gluttony for knowledge made her interested in him as well. We will let you and the others know of his return, Seraphil says. Her woman instincts told her that this woman was dangerous and would likely go for Issei for herself. She hoped she was wrong. Thank you. We will take our leave, Merlin said, as Byoko made a transport seal, taking them back to the Pentadragon Manor. We will be leaving as well. Thank you, Michael said. Oh, Michael, you never introduced us to your new guard, gesturing to the female exorcist. Ah, I forgot. This is Lynch. She is a secret extra Joker candidate and wielder of the Longinus in Sidoran Anthem, but will become my new ace upon Irina's release. He said the last part with a sad smile, Michael said. Although he did not want to, it was the right call for him to make. In regards to Irina, even if she was a valuable piece, he still does pray that Gabriel and Irina may overcome this ordeal and get back on the right path, praying that Shioto can guide them there, because he is still caring. He does secretly pray that they earn forgiveness from Issei someday. It might not be today or tomorrow, but he can only hope. I see. It's an honor to meet you, Lint's son, Serzek says. Thank you, Serzek-sama, giving a quick bow to the Demon King. Lint did. Well, we are off now. Thank you, as she and his angels teleported back to heaven to give the verdict of exile to the traitors to his brother. I am off. I have to see how Barkil and Tamil are handling those two, Shemazin said. Very well, giving a nod to Shemazin, who went back to the Gagar, but also Team Slashdog left as well, Serzek said. Well, we have overstayed. We'll see you around, brats, Odin said, as he, Gondel, and Lightning went back to Asgard. You know, I think I can make her a new dress for my old outfit. She had not been paying attention to anyone. But watching the sleeping Lilith Grafia help me, I can't use my walker and carry her at the same time, Seraphal said. What do you need? Grafia said as he watched Seraphal stand up but on wobbly legs as he tried to stay in place while holding Lilith. Grab my walker and transport us to the castle, please, Seraphal said. Very well, Grafia said, grabbing the walker, then holding on to Seraphal to help her stay upright before they transported to Seraphal's castle. All that was left was Sarah and his Parage, the sleeping Falbium, Claus, and Serzex in the meeting room. Now, Sarah Org, when do you propose that this raiding game might be held? I'd like to give her a false sense of security. So far, we were doing that by acting normal and tolerating her presence. So, how about after her graduation? She would be confident in her abilities, or rather her Parage's abilities, and she would sense the pawn pieces and believe that Issei is training here in the underworld, Sarah Org said. I would have to speak to Sona and Ajuka to make sure that where they keep Genjiro Sanji, Rias cannot detect those pieces, and to keep the remaining ones preferably in Tanin's territory, Serzek says. Then let's say somewhere about a month after her graduation, so she can think of ways to take on my Regulus Ray Latherlex transformation. But forgive me if I want to beat her face in for what she did, Sarah Org says. I understand. Well, normally I would not approve of your methods, but try to inflict bodily damage. I think a blow to the head, you may knock her head off. We don't want to kill her, Serzek says. Ha! I can do that, Sarah Org says. Good. I will check in with Sona when the graduation since Rias does not want to say anything to us. She has taken advantage of her independence quite a lot, Serzek says. Would you like to be attending her graduation? Would you attend her graduation, Sarah Org said. She doesn't like to tell us anything, so I don't think so. Maybe I'll take a vacation then. When she calls about our absence, she will let her know of the raiding game then, Serzek says. I see. If that is all, I would like to go train, get on the jump of things, especially for when he comes back. I feel that he will be stronger than before, Sarah Org says. Well, he is my brother after all, Serzex replied. I will look forward to a rematch. But until then, Sarah Org says. Until then, Serzex replies. Thank you for your time. Then he turned to his Parage. We're leaving, Sarah Org says. As his queen, Kushida created a transport circle to take them back to the House of Biel. Once they left, Serzex leaned back in his chair and sighed as a tear rolled down his eyes. He had decided to banish his own sister, but it was for best, and maybe she will learn for this actions have consequences. Are you all right, Serzex-sama? Claus says. I asked to be invited by Seraphal-sama. She told me of what happened to the Red Dragon Emperor, and I wanted to see it through his eyes. I must say I am displeased with your sister, Claus says. Aren't we all, Serzex replies. I was going to cut ties with the Grand Marie and Phoenix clans, but I was informed that he does not blame them, and second recording that you showed also shows that. Plus, I hear he considers your parents to be his own, Claus says. Indeed, he does, Serzex replied, with a small smile. So I thought otherwise, and would like to ally myself with both clans instead, and before you ask, I am fine with Seraphal-sama being with someone like him, Claus says. That's good to hear, Serzex says. I'd also like to join Team DXD. With your sister being removed, I figured my manpower could help. Sorry, I did not speak up earlier. I have never been in the presence of so many powerful beings before, Claus said. I guess it's something that I have to speak with Dulio about, as you are aware. He is the leader of the team, Serzex says. I understand. I will be leaving now. I am sure my father would be glad to tell that they are being banished from the factions. But tell me, if the future of this upcoming war we need more power, would you let them back into the fold? Claus says. It's something I have not thought about, Serzex replies. Well, it should be something to consider. This enemy has been in the shadows the whole time for who knows how long. Watching us, Rezavim would have won. If what he says is true about tipping the factions off, it does not bode well for us, Claus says. How so? Sirzex replied. If they have been tipping us off, it means they have a contact in the factions, meaning they have a spy. Had it not been for their sense of revenge against Rizavim, this place would have been razed to the ground. Problem is that there was no suspicion from anyone in the meeting today, Claus said. Not even Hades, Sirzex says. Hard to say with the face made of bones. Can't really determine any emotion from a physical standpoint, but he was troubled that his Rizavim found Lilith, Claus said. I will inform the other leaders to be on the lookout. Perhaps that is someone that is close to them that they can find information to who is giving out leaks. We must be ready, Sirzex says. Indeed. I'll let you be, Sirzex-sama. Have a good day. Creating a transport circle to leave. Claus does. You as well, Claus-son. Watching the young man leave, he truly has grown. I thought he would be a stalker and try to kill Issei-kun for Serafall. Thank goodness. But he did bring up a good point about a spy. Could be more, and I feel like they reside in our faction, unfortunately, Sirzex says. He let out a sigh, a bit annoyed, feeling the spy could be someone that support the old Mao faction within the Devil Society, but he just didn't know who. What do you have for the rest of the day, Falbium? He looked towards his fellow Mao, only to find him not there. Sirzex looked around the room in shock. He was perplexed by the sleeping Mao's speed of disappearing. How does he do that? Sirzex says, before shrugging his shoulders. Oh well, I guess it's paperwork for me. The Mao Lucifer got up from his seat and began to walk towards his office, since he had nothing else to do, as Grafia had gone with Serafall and Lilith. Maybe Milikis would be up for another road trip, since Grafia is not around. I think Serafall can keep her occupied for a while, Sirzex says, as he decided to call for his son and spend more time with him, and then worry about the paperwork later. Now, we're back with Issei. The Black Blade, Arondite. Watch as Issei spun his sword in each hand. It had been coaching the young man during their time in the Oasis. It was much more beneficial than it looks that Issei had brought. Since Arondite was wielded by Lancelot, who was an exceptional knight, Issei could dual wield like Lancelot could, although Issei preferred that the swords be the same length, whereas Lancelot wielded the sword and a short sword at the same time. Arondite deduced that Issei preferred this because he wielded two Ascalons, but never at the same time. He technically used three, because he had a third one that was infused into the tail of his scale mail armor, which he could apply holy magic to renegade demons, as Ascalon was also a holy sword. You have improved. Although some of your elemental slashes could use some work, specifically your ice and lightning strikes, Arondite said. Yeah, I figured. Not as good as Sarachun or Nissan, still need some work on the ice. Same with the lightning, definitely needs some improvement. I tried to do what Barkiel told me, but I can barely hold the spark when I swing the blade, Issei says. Yes, you have been able to use holy magic in your attacks. You have also worked well with using your daggers and switching between sword and knife. It reminds me of my old carrier. He wielded a long sword and a short sword, Arondite said. Thank you. You know, when I got those books, I didn't expect to really be talking to anyone. Or have a teacher. I probably would have gotten nowhere without you, sure. I may have been well physically, but I don't know if I've gotten the boost to my open magic core without you. It is no problem. You are trying to better yourself. You remind me of Lancelot in that regard, Arondite said. Really? Well, I don't think I could be on par with his swordsmanship yet. That would take me years, Issei said. I suppose so. Tell me. I feel other presences within you. Whenever you carry me around, what are they? Oh. You must be feeling Drake. He resides within the boosted gear. It's my sacred gear, Issei says. That name sounds familiar, Arondite says. You probably heard of it because of Lancelot's son. Galahad had the same sacred gear. He's considered the strongest male Red Dragon Emperor of the Sekiyuti. He went by a different name, Belzard. Guess it was to keep his identity a secret. Ah, that's why. Galahad brought me here as of France, as the home of Lancelot, despite being Camelot being in what you call Great Britain now, Arondite said. Yeah, I got some big shoes to fill, Issei said. Why haven't you tried to unlock the sacred gear of yours, Arondite said. Issei stopped spinning the sword in his hands. He hadn't thought of that. In his training, he had been too busy building his body up, then working on his unlocking his magic core, and when he did, he focused on his swordsmanship and establishing magic into his attacks. In these past weeks, while doing some school studying on the side. I hadn't really thought about that. I guess my mind has been elsewhere, focusing on different parts of myself, Issei said. Well, why don't you try it now? Arondite said. Okay, I think I will. Although we'll have to focus on Drake and see if he is awake, I need to focus on the boosted gear within me. My former fiancé told me to think of something strong to bring out my sacred gear. My battle partner Drake is strong, and so is my surrogate father, Great Red. Great Red? Arondite said. Ah, well, Drake is the original Red Dragon Emperor. All of his carriers share the same title. In Great Red, he is the true Red Dragon God Emperor. He's ranked higher than Drake, and Drake is a celestial dragon. And Great Red is a dragon god, or the true dragon, Issei says. I see. Well then, focus on it. It could help you with your training, Arondite said. All right. As he sat down on the ground, he began to focus on the strong beings that he knew. Come on, Drake, come on, Issei says. Now we're inside of Issei's mindscape. Issei found himself in a black void. He couldn't see anything. He remembered when he met Elsha and Belzard. It was a white space. This was the complete opposite of that. He then began to feel this heat turn up when he remembered this, similar to his first meeting with Drake. Drake, is that you? Issei says. The scenery began to change around. He saw the cause of heat as some vicious liquid that glowed orange began to light up around. Lava, Issei says. Looking up, he saw a red scroll. If lava's, then there's a boom! Volcano? As he heard it go off in the distance, he was surrounded by molten Ridlock River. This is definitely different from when I met Drake the first time. He had fire all around. I thought I was going to be burned, Issei says. Then he realized something. He was feeling affected from the heat. I can't feel the heat. Guess it's because it's in my mind. Otherwise, I'd be sweating buckets. As he rubbed his face, I definitely need to shave the stubble. Now I need to grow a beard, but it's from what I get for living a nomad. I never even learned to shave thanks to that bastard that calls himself my father. But he was never a father of mine, Issei says. Issei began to travel, walking amongst the volcanic rock that was around, trying to get to the vantage point. No sign of him. Where could he be? Issei says. He continued to journey on the volcanic land. Drake! Drake! As his hands cupped his mouth, as he dropped them and let out a sigh. Come on, where are you, partner? Hearing the roar, Issei looked towards the volcano. It sounded familiar to him, but at the same time, it didn't. Now that I think about it, this place looks familiar or something similar. I remember seeing it in my dream. When I was a kid, I got scared that a lava was going to kill me. Better to see what I can find at the volcano, Issei says. He began trekking through the land, still not feeling the heat, but he was sweating from walking. He really wished he could utilize his dragon wings and just fly, but this downfall of being a human. He took off his shirt and hung it around his neck, keeping his eyes on the volcano. It felt like minutes had gone by, but it was in his mind, so time should be endless here. He noticed that something was particularly odd about the volcano. It wasn't moving. Issei was confused by this. He could have sworn that he had been walking for some time. Feeling frustrated, he began to run towards the volcano, but the volcano still wasn't getting any closer. He stopped and placed his hands on his knees to take some deep breaths. He wondered why he wasn't getting any closer to the volcano. He was getting more frustrated by this. It was just like when he was trying to unlock his magic core. My magic core. That's it. Okay. Issei, just calm down. Nothing to get mad about. Remember what you're fighting for, Issei says. He stood up and took a deep breath and looked at the path ahead of himself, and then closed his eyes. Alright, I can do this. I'm fighting to see my friend. Okay, just one step at a time. Okay, Drake, I'm coming for you, Issei says. Keeping his eyes closed, Issei walked along the way. He knew the path ahead did not have any lava trails, so he wouldn't have to worry about falling in one. Step by step, Issei walked along. It didn't matter how much time it would take. He didn't want to get frustrated about not reaching the volcano. He then remembered the images from his previous test. He remembered how ruthless he was, killing all of those that betrayed him. He frowned at those images, sure. He expected bad things to happen to them, but he didn't wish death upon anybody. He knew that he wasn't a killer. He only became like that when he had to be. He then remembered all of those that he has been missing. Drake, Seraphol, Ajuka, Serzex, Graphia, Milikis, the Gramarys, Kuno, Michael, Great Red, and his little sister, Lilith. It made him smile, seeing their faces. He felt happy as his legs were on autopilot, just walking along. He then remembered the former carriers. He wished Elsda and Belzard were still here. He wondered how they would have handled the situation. At the time, he wondered if they would consider going into the Juggernaut Drive if those that loved betrayed them. As he pondered about them, he decided to think how could they have taught him things. He could see them himself training in combat with Belzard, their swords clashing, learning more than he ever could. He could not even teach them how he bested 3 of Albion's carriers. Just thought of learning from the strongest male Red Dragon Emperor made Issei wonder what else he could do. He then thought of the strongest female Dragon Emperor, Elshta. She did not seem like a hand-to-hand combatant, but she looks can be deceiving. He did not think that Drake could have such a beautiful bearer. She was the one that informed him of his potential. He remembered that the potential she talked about him was re-expressed, but now he felt that only stunned him. It made him wonder what his true potential really is. Now that he didn't have those perverted tendencies, he wondered if she could have taught him magic if he met her earlier. It would have been useful against the opponents like Riser, Kokaville, or maybe even Loki. If he hadn't been so perverted, it made him wonder what really could have done early in his supernatural career. Maybe in another life, Issei says. His eyes were still closed. He just kept walking until he felt his feet began to walk on an incline and made him wonder about what was happening. He opened his eyes and looked up in shock. He did it. He reached the volcano. He was in shock as it just needed to calm down. Now he was ecstatic. He did it, but he then wondered if it would be the same thing. If he tried climbing, then he would need to stay calm. Otherwise, it would be an endless climb. Just before he could begin his trek up, something or someone stopped him. "No need to do that," the person in question said. Issei turned around and there was a man with black hair, amber gold eyes, which surprised Issei a little because his eyes were even amber brown. The man was dressed like a feudal lord, dressed in red robes with gold trim and black scents. Despite the robes, the man seemed comfortable in the heat, even though the robes looked heavy. "Who are you?" Issei says. "I've been watching you for some time," Issei Hyodo, the person in question, says. "Just Issei. I have disconnected myself from that name and everything, including blood," Issei says. "Forgive me, I did not realize, but you don't remember what the blade told you about beings inside of you." The person in question says, "I thought he was talking about my partner Drake, but you're right. Arondite did say beings as plural, so I guess you're the other one, or maybe Jiko, haven't heard of him. He is no longer with us. He sacrificed himself to save you from becoming a shell of yourself and your partner Drake from sacrificing himself to you." "Oh, I see," bowing his head, and then he remembered something that Drake said before he went to sleep. "Wait, Drake said that something else merged with him in a sense. Was that you? You would be correct." "I must say you are quite proficient with the element of fire," this person said. "That is probably due to my dragon blood, even though my body is human right now." "I can help you with that, you see." As he conjured up a fire out of nowhere without calling upon it, this technique is called firebending. It is a pyrokinetic to control produce fire. The technique is derived from the dragons themselves. "Whoa, really? So if I can get in tune with this, I can get more in tune with my dragon side. That's amazing," Issei says. "Yes, you see, fire is the element of power. It consists of overpowering force that tempered unflinching will accomplish tasks and desires to sound familiar." I'm not sure," Issei said. "It's you or your character as a person is about. Think of the battles you were a part of, your former mistress, although it seems it's bittersweet, but you did not give up on finding a way to rescue her, using unconventional means to save her upon arranged marriage. The same with your battle against the Catril Kokaville. He was stronger than you. You were scared, but you still wanted to protect those around you." "Oh, thanks," Issei said. "It's why you have the potential to learn this technique. If you could learn well enough, you can learn about lightning generation." "That's amazing. Where can I begin? And by the way, I never got your name," Issei says. "I think you need to learn about your family history before learning about my name, but for now, you may call me Ozai." As if I needed to know about the Hyodo name. Surprising how I blamed for being a pervert. When they are the same, my grandfather was the one that told me to get a harem when I was ignored by my so-called parents, Issei said. "Calm down, you're getting ahead of yourself. I was not referring to the Hyodo name," Ozai says. "Then who are you referring to? If you mean my so-called mother's name, it's probably more perversion on the end. When those girls came into my life, she prepared them perverted outfits like naked aprons, so that's not much for me to learn there," Issei said. "When's the last time you talked with your grandmother?" Ozai says. "My grandmother? It's been a while since I've seen her. Don't know how I can get to her, though I heard the transport circles, but I can only transport within the Oasis." "The Oasis?" Ozai says. Yeah, it's what I am calling this training area that I live in where Drake's cave resides, Issei says. Well, you were able to transport those pieces of yours to your underworld, so I'm sure you will find a way to your grandmother, Ozai says. I guess, Issei replied. Until then, I will be waiting, Issei, as he forced Issei out of his mind. Hey, wait! But it was too late, as Issei was transported back to the oasis. Now we're back outside of Issei's mind. Watching Issei was a Rondite, but around the blade was a silhouette of a knight, acting as a guardian over the young man as he was in deep in his thoughts. The knight's face held a little sorrow for the young man because of what he went through and what could be seen. He knew that Issei would not use the blade for revenge, and hoped that Issei was understanding about the past that he endured, as he used the blade as a medium to speak with Issei, but never revealed himself. Seeing Issei begin to seizure, the knight's silhouette disappeared, leaving only the blade. Issei opened his eyes to see he was back in the oasis, and Arondite was in front of him. Did you find your partner? Arondite said. No, but you are right about there being beings inside of me, Issei said. Oh, I see. And what do you plan to do? Arondite said. Well, as he stood up and pulled Arondite out of the ground and strapped on his back. First, I need to go see my Obachan, Issei said. Obachan, Arondite said. Sorry, you're not familiar with Japanese, but it means my grandmother, Issei says. I see. And why? Arondite says. I need to learn more about my family's history. There are things that I don't know about my grandmother that could hold the answers. At least that's what he told me, Issei said. Who? Arondite said. The other being inside of me didn't tell me his name, or his real name, I should say. Told me to call him Ozai, and that I needed to know about my family's past, but it seems it must be from my grandmother's side, Issei said. I see. Then I guess we better get to your grandmother's place. But what if your birth parents are there? Arondite said. Issei stopped walking and stared ahead. He hadn't thought about it and remembered what they say about him crawling back to them. They didn't know he heard them because he had disappeared into the crowd, but he had his dragon's hearing back then. Well, we'll just have to see when we get there, but if that's so, that won't stop me from getting the answers that I'm looking for, Issei said. Not afraid to confront your problems. That's good, Arondite said. When you spend weeks alone trying to better yourself, you tend to change up on things you did before, Issei said. It's also a sign of one's development, and you are trending in that right direction, Arondite said. Thanks. Now, time to find the book that Odin gave me as he walked back to Drake's cave to find the book that allowed him to send the pieces to the underworld. He figured that it may help him to his grandmother's house, and since he had locked his magic core and gotten it more stabilized, he felt comfortable with transporting. He had gotten attached to a Rondite and didn't want to leave the sword behind. He figured that his grandmother would ask about it, but he felt comfortable with talking about the supernatural world to her. Hopefully she would understand, but he knows that his grandmother would be accepting of his decisions. After all, when Irina left and the Hyodo ignored him, it was his grandparents that were there for him. Where could they be? So he hoped that he could explain his side of the story. If the Hyodo had spoken to her first, he let his thoughts wander as he entered the cave, began his search. And that is the end of Chapter 20. Chapter 21, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're in the student council room. Sona and her Paraj, with the exception of Loop, who was in college, were discussing things with Sekivara. A hologram of Keokeo and Seraphol was also there, listening in. So is everything set? Sona says. Yes, Leonardo had created monsters. Although it is not as bad as the demonic beast Riot, he is controlling them sparingly, letting them run amok in the abandoned village quite far from here. It's off the coast of Japan, Sekivara says. How well is Leonardo handling the strain? Keokeo, Sona says. He's doing fine. He creates a few monsters, they do some destruction, and he dispels them to save his energy, make it look like the renegade demons were. We also slain a few, so it looks like there was a fight and left bodies there, Keokeo said. I can speak with Ajuka to send you some corpses of the Chaos Brigade soldiers, so they think that some of the people died were already removing their wings too, Seraphol said. We would also need some alive people so they can portray survivors, Keokeo said. I can send them to some of the people that work on my show. I don't think Rias has ever seen them. I'll even make sure that they are loyal and faithful, in case her idea of fun attempts to sleep with them, too. If they do, you can kill them, Keokeo, because they are good as dead and will be exiled anyway, Seraphol said. Gladly. Please do let me know when her raiding game is. I'd like to see her crumble and volley as well, if he shows up, Keokeo says. Sarah Oric is being courageous. With school coming to an end soon, he will let them handle that, and then Mouth, after their graduation, should give it ample time to train, Serafall says. From what I've seen, only Kiba, Gasper, Ross Visa have been training, and I do not think I can substitute in time for Ross Visa to go on this mission, Sona says. I can substitute, Serafall replied. No, Onisama, you will only want to see the girl that likes Issei, and you would try to get into her head, Sona says. Fine, besides, it's good that Ross Visa stays anyway. Based on the recording, Issei did not name any of them specifically, and she's a teacher, so she wouldn't get any backlash from it. It is well known that Rias is president and Akano is vice president. The others will just fall into place, Serafall says. You have a point, Sona replied. It seems everything is going as planned. Thank you for your assistance, Kao, Sekigahara says. Ha! I'm just looking forward to seeing how strong he is. When he gets back, he owes me another rematch. Take care, Kao says. Kao, be sure that Kiba and Gaspard are paired together. Getting a nod from the man, Sona says. I'll be sure to send those bodies within the hour. It got her a nod from the hero as the hologram disappeared. Now that he's gone, time for some girl talk. Seek-chan, why are you helping in this? Serafall says. The nickname did cause Sekigahara to get a tick on her forehead, an annoyance of her childhood nickname. Before it was something that she was fond of because Rias had named her that. Now, after what she did, she was thoroughly annoyed and even disgusted by it. You may be a Mal, but I cordially ask you to never call me that again, Mal Leviathan. Her tone was cold, even colder than Sona's has ever been. Serafall narrowed her eyes. At first, she felt insulted by Sekigahara taking that tone with her. However, she believed that she had a reason for it, so she nodded at the request. I will tell you this, I am not fond of what Rias has done, and I consider Issei to be a friend, in a sense. And before you ask, he and I have a common interest. That is all that I will tell you. I'll leave you to handle the rest, Sona-san, Sekigahara says. Sona nodded to the Egregious Harris, left the student council office to transport back to her territory in the underworld. So, Tan, do you know why she doesn't like that nickname? Serafall says. I believe Rias used to call her that quite affectionately, too, and from what she said, she doesn't want to be reminded of Rias, Sona says. I see. I'll go get those bodies to Kao and I'll have Sir Zex be prepared. Rias would likely listen to him, so if you call him, he'll be sure to answer and make sure that Rias handles her duties, Serafall said. Understood, Sona replied. Take care of yourself, Sona, Serafall said, which caused a little shock in her sister at being called her name, and not some nickname like Sotan or So-So. Then she looked over at Tsubaki and smirked before her hologram disappeared. The smirk left Tsubaki confused, and she did not know what mischievous thoughts the map was thinking. With that handled, Momo, Rhea, get those 3 girls, and the rest of you were dismissed, as the Parage began to file out of the office while 2 of her bishops went to do their task. With them gone, she reached over and picked up a blue pawn piece. It was vibrant. This pawn piece belonged to her new former pawn, Genjiro Sanji, who was now the ex-wielder of Vidra. After the extraction, Ajuka and Sour Hill worked to implant an artificial sacred gear, which was similar to the absorption line sacred gear that he originally had, but it was not nearly as effective. Then Ajuka performed the trait of taking out Sona's 4 pawn pieces and inserting only 2 of Rias' pawn pieces. I had high hopes for you, Genshiro, but you failed me and every action has consequences. The good thing is that you got stronger and gave me these mutated pieces. I'll use them to my advantage. Unfortunately for Rias, Ajuka was able to convert the mutated pawn pieces that Issei once held back down to regular pawn pieces, Sona said. She placed the pawn piece back down and leaned back into her chair, letting out a sigh. If only you weren't so spoiled, Rias. Sona says. Suddenly a magic circle appeared to her surprise. The magic Gremory signal when she was confused. Who the Gremory clan would be coming to the school? Maybe Sir Zex? It wasn't. Out of the magic circle came Zectodius Gremory. Lord Gremory, what are you doing here? Sona says, as she stood up to greet him. Ah, Sona, working as always. Well, I came because a little birdie told me about what you did to keep the recording from being late too early, Zectodius said. Sona's eyes widened. She remembered what she told the Kendo duo and Akia to keep them from releasing that recording she was going to talk about with them. Also, I'm the administrator of the school, or did you forget that? Zectodius said. At that, Sona wanted to facepalm. She did not forget that with all the planning she had to go to keep Rias and the others with false sense of security. She did not think that Zectodius would come around. And another thing, have you heard from my son? His mother is worried sick, since he has not contacted either one of us. When he left, and although it's been a few weeks or closer to a month, you know how mothers can be with their children. Zectodius said, laughing it off. Son, isn't Sir Zex-sama in the underworld still? We had just a factions meeting this past weekend, Sona said. Oh, not him. I mean our other one. Issei, Zectodius said. You guys adopted Issei, Sona replied. Well, not illegally, but he told us that he saw us as parents before he left, so he doesn't want to hold any ill will towards us, something I am very grateful for. And I don't know about my daughter could do such a thing, but I blame myself for spoiling her like my mother spoiled me, having a sad face on his face. I'm sorry, Lord Gremory, I don't know what Rias was thinking either, but I did send her the 3 original copy of the recording. They should be here shortly. Issei has not contacted me yet, Sona said. Excellent. As he walked and sat in Sona's chair, as he stood up in front of her desk. After all, you did say that I would compensate them if they kept quiet, Sectodius said. Ah, I did say that, but it was just to keep them quiet. And you don't need to, Sona says. No, they deserve to be rewarded for their silence. Besides, they are about to teach my daughter a lesson so that she rightfully needs, or did you forget that once this needs to go out, her reputation would likely be ruined, Sectodius said. I did not forget, Lord Gremory, Sona replied. Every action has its own consequences. My action of spoiling her led to this. If I didn't, she probably wouldn't have been a little more competent. Also, let's try to keep the chemistry teacher away from the civics teacher, Sectodius said. You're referring to Azazel and Rosvisa, correct? From what I hear, Shemazin has a crow busy in the Gregor, so he won't be near and already informed him that he doesn't need to be back for the remainder of the school year, Sona says. Good. That makes things a little easier. When he's finished speaking, a knock was heard. Ah, our guests have arrived. Sona, if you will, Sectodius said. Sona gave a nod and ordered to whoever had entered the office and her push-ups along with Kadase, Moriyama, and Akia. Momo and Reia's eyes widened a bit upon seeing Sectodius there, but remained neutral. Kadase, Moriyama, and Akia were bewildered by the crimson-haired man that sat on the desk. Momo and Reia went to stand by Sona's side, while the other 3 approached the desk. Hello? Calcho? Who is this? Kadase said. He looks kind of familiar, Moriyama replied. Almost like Ria-senpai, Akia said. So, you know of my daughter, I see, Sectodius said. The 3 girls' eyes widened. This was Rias' father. It was their first time ever meeting them. They didn't meet him on Parents' Day because they were in their own parents at the time. However, remembering Rias, they became a little more blank in the face. I suppose that it has something to do with the recording, correct? Kyocha says, looking at the Sona. Kadase says, that would be correct. To properly introduce him, this is Sectodius Gremory, administrator of Koh Academy, Sona says. Now the girls were a little worried, because if he was the administrator, then maybe Rias wouldn't get in trouble, but then again, Sona would vouch for them, right? I'm guessing that you want to confiscate it, so we don't release it, so your daughter's image isn't tarnished, Moriyama says. On the contrary, actually. No, she's already done that herself. I'd like to thank you for what you're doing and what you did to have no problems with you releasing it. You see, Rias' mother and I love Issei like a son. We even asked him to call us his parents. We saw him as part of our family, Sectodius said. Glad to know somebody did, Akia replied. Yes, I am very much aware of his birth parents were involved in this matter. And we are looking to remove the Hyodo name legally from him. The only good thing that I can say they did was name him Issei, Sectodius said. Why is that? Kadase replied. It's because it means honest, Kadase, and it means sense. Issei has always been honest about things, even his own perversion, Akia said. Yeah, he was. He was honest about marrying my daughter as well. I thought she was too, as we have a family tradition that determines if someone is worthy of marrying into the family. My daughter kind of forced Issei's hand to agree to it, and I thought it was because she loved him as well. Well, they passed the test, so technically they were not just boyfriend and girlfriend, Sectodius said. So they were engaged. Wow, Kadase replied, remembering that Issei did say they committed to marriage, but she did not take it seriously at the time. Yes, but not anymore. He did not to mention that Issei was engaged to Serafall and had seen sadness in Moriyama's eyes, and for that I want to thank you for helping bring her infidelity to the light from that recording. We had to track Issei down to confirm it was true, Sectodius said. Have you seen him recently? Moriyama replied. He hasn't been around for at least a month. I'm sorry, but no, I haven't. But anyways, I was informed that you had received compensation for your silence on the matter. So tell me, what is it you would like? Sectodius said. The 3 girls looked at each other. They forgot they had been rewarded. They were handling Sona's bidding to keep things normal for the girls until further notice. They looked at Sona as if thinking it was a joke, but they saw her nod to them, telling them that it's all right. Is it possible to get a better locker room? You know, the one that doesn't allow perverts to peep on us. Although there are some of the girls that don't actually mind it and actually flaunt their figures for them and become hypocrites and beat for the perverts for it. This caused Moriyama to blush, so I am hoping the luxuries of better locker room would distract them from doing that. I can make that arrangement. Anything else? Zectodia said. I'm not sure yet, since Kadase already asked for something for the Kendo Club, Moriyama replied. And for you? As he looked towards Akiya, Zectodia, I don't have anything for the moment, so can my request be put on hold? She wanted answers of how it was possible for Issei to be in a polygamous relationship. Wait, I have something, Moriyama said, and that is, could the Journal Club get some better equipment? You know, help spread the news around here or something? Moriyama said. Moriyama, Akiya replied. Akiya, don't worry about it. It may not be my club, but you're my friend. You may be perverted in your own right, but you are still my friend. Besides, Kadase already did something for the Kendo Club. And if not to be a bother, we also get the skirts lengthened a bit. I'd rather not to worry about bending over and flashing people behind me, Moriyama said. You could have gotten better equipment, Moriyama. It would help us compete against the other schools, Kadase says. We'll just have to train harder. Besides, it was Akiya's idea to get to the bottom of this and get the confession out of Issei. Now that we know that people we once idolized are frauds, all they care about is themselves and not others, sure. Issei may have been a pervert, but to play on one's feeling is just sick, Moriyama says. That's true. When I go back to listen to the recording, I think about my crush on Kiba and fear that he may have been involved. Guess he's not a knight in shining armor, Kadase said. Sona and Zectodius frowned as they knew something was up with Kiba and Gasper, but they couldn't give them special treatment. Otherwise, the girls would catch on. Yeah, Issei said his best friend slept with the other girls. Could that be Kiba? I never really heard Issei declare Kiba as his best friend, and he didn't exactly give us any names. We know Rias and Nakano are part of the club, their president and vice president. I know Ozzy is part of it as well. I don't talk to Zenovia nor Irina much. Irina has her own club, that Salvation of Love thing. I think the only just hangs around with the ORC girls. And I apologize, we're going to be stopping for now, even though it's in the middle of that conversation. I usually kind of wait, but I'm getting kind of tired, and your boy definitely needs some rest, because I'm not going to lie, ever since this little problem that I've had, I don't think I've had non-stop training. I've actually brought so much pain to my arms that I have trouble sleeping. So I'm going to try to get some type of rest. Obviously, I'm not going to screw up my sleep schedule. Your boy's still going to wake up extremely early and go to sleep on time, because I want every single gain from this pain that I suffered to be worth it. So, as I announced beforehand, I do have a Discord now, as well as I have a Patreon. The Patreon will include tons of anime reactions, and the only reason why it's a Patreon is because, once again, I can't put any one of those clips on YouTube or like any of the platforms. Kick either. Kick's gonna get that's coming as well. That's why I haven't streamed on Kick or Rumble or any of those sites. They're getting too big for their own good, and just like Twitch was beforehand, they're going to put the hammer down and delete all those copyrighted content, which would be unfortunate for me if I started on there, and that's how the way it was. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the support. I really can't thank you enough. 500 to 600 likes on this video would be absolutely amazing. Part 15 will be coming out very soon. Once again, subscribe to my others channels and Popowski and Fallen DxD down in the description below. It really would appreciate it. Remember to join the Discord, and if at all possible, if you would like to join the Patreon, that'd be a big help to me, as you know, it really would help improve not only the quality of my videos, but just my family in general. So thank you so much for the support. You know, I don't really like to talk about that stuff, but once again, thanks. You know, everything's been a pretty big help. I can't thank you guys enough. Seriously, it's been absolutely amazing. You know, if I didn't have this right here, it would have been 10 times harder to get through what I'm actually going through right now. So, once again, hit the like button, ladies and gentlemen. And if you ever need some type of advice, you can always just hit it in the comment section. Maybe I'll see it, maybe I won't. You know, I'm kind of stuck right now. But, once again, thank you. I know I keep saying that. I'll leave it to now. Thank you so much for the support, ladies and gentlemen. And without any further intrusion, Spartanic Arts DxD out.